Ja, hallo zusammen. Der FC Bayern bereitet sich auf sein zweites Gruppenspiel in der UEFA Champions League vor. Morgen Abend in der Allianz Arena gegen Dynamo Kiew. Dazu gehört natürlich auch die Pressekonferenz tags zuvor. Jetzt zu Beginn mit Serge Gnabry. Servus, Serge.
With Serge Gnabry.
Wir halten die Pressekonferenz auf Deutsch.
Welcome to all of you. The press conference is going to be in German. Please go ahead and ask your questions.
Felix Fischer für Sport 1, bitte.
Ja, hallo Serge, hallo zusammen. Die letzten Wochen lief es ja wirklich gut für den FC Bayern.
The last couple of weeks have gone very well for Bayern Munich. One win after the other for Bayern Munich.
Und wie stellt vielleicht Julian Nagelsmann auch sicher?
How do you ensure that you remain motivated, that you don't feel too confident and too secure? We just have new goals for every situation. We want to keep pushing. We want to win every single game. The last few weeks and all the results, of course, gave us a lot of joy of playing, gave us a lot of confidence, and we're going to try to maintain that confidence. Every game starts from the beginning. We want to win every single game to prove to ourselves that we can do that, and this is the kind of mindset that helps us a lot. You had some back problems and the flu. How do you feel? I feel much better, thank you.
Das hört sich gut an, kurz und knapp. Dann Frank Klinkisch für den Kicker, bitte.
Ja, hallo in die Runde, hallo Serge. Ich hätte eine Frage zu Jamal
I have a question about Jamal Musiala. First of all, tell us about him as a player and as a human being, as a teammate. And you both were educated and took your first steps in England. What advantages does that give players? Well, I think I experience him just like everyone else. He's great, he wants to play, he loves it, he's very down to earth in the locker room. I think he has many, many big things ahead, and I, of course, wish him all the best for the future. I think spending time in England or spending time in a foreign country is always a different style you need to learn. That might help you when you transfer to the next club. In particular, of course, in England, it's very robust. It helped me to have to prevail there, and I think Jamal Musiala benefited from that experience as well.
Dann Tawfik Khalil für die ARD und Bayerischen Rundfunk.
Ja, Serge, zuletzt, wir haben es ja gehört, es geht dir wieder besser, ab und zu mal Probleme. Wie wichtig ist es?
You said you feel better. Now you had some problems recently again. How important is it for Bayern Munich that you do have a fairly wide choice, quite a few options on the wings? Is it good for you? Is it important for you to be able to take a rest as well? Because you do play for Germany quite a lot. You do experience problems every once in a while. You're completely right, and that's why we have a good and a high-quality squad. There's so many games, and you can't play every single game, and you don't have to play every single game, particularly when you have some minor injury problems. That's why we have a lot of good players for the wing positions. We always have options, and that's very important for us and for this season. But for you personally, are you quite happy if you can take a game off to regenerate? Well, when I have injury problems, yes. Otherwise, no. What do you expect of the opponent? Dynamo Kiev, I'm sure you've analyzed the opponent already. What did the coach tell you? What do you expect? I think considering the aspect that a lot of them play for the national team, and we've played against them, of course, they're very robust, very dynamic. They try to keep a clean sheet and then beat us in transition. That's what we saw in particular in the video.
Dann nächstes Handzeichen bitte. Tawfik Khalil nochmal, oder ist das nicht rausgenommen?
Nee, ich hab's wieder reingelegt, sozusagen.
Serge, one more question. You beat Barcelona 3-0, and it's just the beginning of the campaign. Are you happy that a lot of experts and fans think you're favorites? Honestly, we don't believe that. It's the first time that someone tells me that we're the big favorites to win the Champions League. Winning against Barcelona was good. It was important for us to beat them and to beat them so clearly. But tomorrow we have a different opponent. They're going to try to make life very difficult for us again. So we have to start from zero again, be completely motivated, be very alert, and be just as greedy and ambitious to win that game. And that's not for granted. Robert Perez came out with a statement and he said Bayern Munich's the best team, in his opinion, a favorite to win the Champions League. Did you hear about that statement? What do you think about that? Is it really so important and such a benefit and advantage for you that you harmonize as a team and that you are maybe the best team rather than a collection of individuals? I think there's a lot of good teams this season. The transfer summer produced a lot of Champions League contenders. Nonetheless, within the team, we're completely happy with ourselves. We have a great atmosphere in the team. That's always very important to have, particularly when you go into a difficult period where things don't go your way. So we're a good team. We have good team spirit. We stick together. We're really ambitious. We're hungry. We are excited. We want to win the Champions League again, and I think we definitely have a team that can do that.
Dann Florian Kienast für Spiegel Online.
Joshua Kimmich and
Leon Goretzka both extended their contracts, very important players. Apparently, you're in contract talks already. Can you tell us anything about that, and when do you expect to be able to provide us with news? Do you think you're going to, what's the chances that you're going to stay at Bayern for a long time? I don't want to comment on that. I can't comment on that yet.
Dann schauen wir auf ein nächstes mögliches Handzeichen. Taufik nochmal bitte.
Ja, ich versuch's ja nochmal.
Let me try again. The coach. Is there no one else that wants to ask questions? I'll go home. Last weekend, the coach kind of exploded on the sideline. He was very emotional, very loud. Do you like that? Do you enjoy an active coach? Julian Nagelsmann is someone who suffers with the team. I'm not sure when this volcano exploded or when Julian Nagelsmann exploded, but that's the way he is. That's the way he approaches games. He's a very emotional person, so I think that's fine. We all know, even if there's something negative that might be said, it's nothing personal.
Oliver Trust für Xinhua News.
Hallo Herr Gnabry, vor der Champions League-Saison.
Going into this Champions League season, the impression of many was that the Bundesliga and Germany isn't as good anymore. There's a gap compared to the big teams because, of course, some of the major players bought massive new players. Now, Bayern Munich is treated with the utmost respect. And when people speak about Bayern Munich, they do talk about this team spirit that plays such a big role and that you are a real team that stands together, plays together. Is that really the one determining factor that makes Champions League winners? It's definitely a huge factor. It's very important because in the end, even when you're in the final, there's two teams that are desperate to win. So I do think that a team that harmonizes well, mentally harmonizes well on the pitch as well, and has an advantage. In the last couple of years, things have been going very well here. It's always fun to come here, to go to the training sessions every single day. I get along very well with the teammates, and that's so important, particularly when you have so many games and when you have such pressure to win every single game. That makes it so much easier.
Dann der Kollege M. Schneider, bitte.
Hallo Herr Gnabry.
Now, it seems that Bayern Munich can switch between two systems, back four, back three, and you might go back and forth between these two systems. Do you prefer either system? And if not, can you tell us what changes for you if there's a back three or back four? It doesn't really make that much of a difference. It really depends on how we start attacks. You have to try to get the ball forward well in both systems. In attack, many things remain the same and things are going very well for us. If you look at the last couple of games, we have created many chances and we have scored a lot of goals, so things are going really well, and it benefits us that we are very flexible.
Okay, dann Oliver Trust nochmal.
Das Handzeichen ist nicht verschwunden, deshalb ist das Handzeichen immer noch da.
I have another question for you.
Sehen Sie denn so über die letzten Jahre Ihre
If you look
Rolle?
the last couple of years of your career, how has your role changed? You've established here at Bayern, you've established yourself for the German national team. You're a key factor in both teams. How did you experience this development? Well, I experienced it myself. Maybe I didn't notice as much as it would be from the outside looking in. But of course, before I transferred to Bayern Munich, this was my goal. This is what I wanted to achieve over the course of a couple of years. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I've achieved that. At Bayern Munich and the German national team, I'm playing and an important player for both teams. My plan for the next couple of years is simply to continue to keep improving. I want to keep winning and playing well is fun. All right. Thank you very much, Serge. There are no more questions. We will be right back with Julian Nagelsmann.
Dann Teil 2 der Pressekonferenz, jetzt mit unserem Cheftrainer Julian Nagelsmann. Servus Julian. Hi.
Part 2 of our press conference with Julian Nagelsmann. Let's go with your questions.
TZ und Münchner Merkur, ja.
Hallo, servus.
Julian, one question about Alphonso Davies. You explained on DAZN what his role is in going forward. Can you explain that a little bit more? Is he a bit of a little or left winger and a classic left back? How would you explain his role in your system? Generally speaking, that can change. I didn't explain every single detail on DAZN, just a couple of general issues. I feel when you're invited into such a program, doesn't matter if it's DAZN or whatever other program, you should explain certain things and not just go from one obvious statement to the other. That might be a little bit surprising, but we still have enough secrets, I think, that are hard to see through. We change certain things. If you watch our games, you can see that Alphonso plays different positions. Sometimes we're a flat back four, sometimes he's a bit of a winger, a left back or a full back or a wing back. It depends on Upamecano or Nicky Süle or Tanguy Nianzou plays there or Lucas Hernandez. It depends a little bit on who's playing next to him. It's the job of a coach to field players on their best position so that they can bring their best strength to the pitch. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that they always have to play the same position. At the beginning of the season, I talk to players and I talk to, when players ask me where I want to field them, I tell them I plan to field you everywhere because I do demand flexibility from my players, and that is also the case with Alphonso. Julian, Serge Gnabry was here a few minutes ago. How important is he for you? What are his strengths? What do you think about him? And how worried are you about his recurring physical issues? I'm not afraid, I'm not worried, but we have to keep an eye on him because he's just a very explosive guy. And then these kind of players and his experience has shown that he never had this real rhythm. And no matter if it was Arsenal or Stuttgart or Bremen or Hoffenheim, he was never able to play a full season. He always had issues, minor issues, and you have to keep an eye on that. You have to make sure that he's ready and in his best shape in the most important games. That's the job of the coaches. Serge is incredibly professional. It's not that he's unprofessional or doesn't eat well or anything like that. That's nothing to do with his issues. There's certain players who have a certain constitution physically. Some players are never injured, and some players have minor issues every once in a while, but it's not really a big drama. For me, he's very important as a type of player. He's a very important human being. He's always in a very good mood. He's a very positive person. He brings a great atmosphere into the team on a very healthy level. He, of course, can finish with both feet. He can play on both wings. He feels comfortable in the center with the ball on his feet. He has a good anticipation for deep runs, but he combines well. He has good ideas. He's creative. And I think players with that kind of quality and players who have the quality and that kind of character, that's just important. When you meet people, that you want to meet them again and again, and when you meet someone for the first time, you want to meet him every day and work with him every day, and that's the case with Serge. A question about Kiev. I'm just going to suggest that if you look at Kiev, you probably couldn't tell us as much about Kiev as about Barcelona. But of course, you're prepared for this game now. But do you really want to know as much about Dynamo Kiev as about Barcelona, for instance? Or do you trust your team as much or enough not to actually go into too much detail with an opponent like Kiev? Well, you have to really make a difference here between what the coach does in his job and what a player does, and what the job of the coach is. Obviously, there are teams that are absolute world class, and you can tell your players a little bit more about one opponent. But my demand, what I expect of myself, is to know everything about every opponent and know the same amount of details of every opponent. What happens when they go forward, when they go back? What happens when they have superior numbers, inferior numbers? We observed as many Dynamo Kiev games as we watched Barcelona and Greuther Fürth games. We showed the team a similar amount of video material. Of course, there's differences in depth of detail, but that depends on the opponent. If a opponent is very flexible and changes positions and situations all the time, then you have to tell your players a little bit more. In Kiev, they are the clear favorites in every league game, and they show with Zigankov, for instance, that they have an outstanding player who is interesting for European top clubs as well. He has a great left foot. He moves into the center from the right-hand side and creates superior numbers there. In the league, they bring a lot of players forward and only leave 1 or 2, 3 players at the back. They lost 3-0 against Shakhtar Donetsk in the Super Cup, but they were the better team in every single game. They're champions, cup winners, table leaders. And then in the Super Cup or against Benfica, they had very little possession. They were very deep, try to go for counterattacks, but they're very clear how they do that. They have a very compact center, both the back four and the midfield four. They shut down space in the middle. So even if Benfica had 70% possession, I think they were unable to score a goal against Kiev, although they were superior. And of course, our job is to break through this compact block and at the same time be present and alert in defense, because the two strikers of Kiev often defend, and they're only 20, 30 yards away from their own goal. So you have to defend really, really high against those guys to prevent counterattacks. That's going to be one of the major issues for us. And then, of course, it's true that I trust my team can win this game, but that doesn't mean that I want to know everything about the opponent. I need to do that. It's not the player's job to be able to react to a change in what the opponent does, but it's my job. And so that's why I know everything about them, and I have to get the performance of my players on the pitch. I have a question about Kingsley Coman. Can you tell us how he's doing? Is he possibly an option for the squad? And also, please tell us about your injury. I think you sustained one at the beginning. Thank you, I'm fine. My ankle was hit. Xaver Zembrot, I think he's 55, and he probably didn't see me come from the side, and he kicked out, lashed out, and hit me, but I'm fine. Thank you very much. I would be ready to play. If anyone needs me to do anything, I can do that. Talking about Kingsley Coman, he's fine, he's happy, he's beaming, he's smiling and super happy to be back, and that this whole issue is over. He can play again freely. He's not an option yet, simply because we decided going into his surgery that we want to keep him out of the full training and give him an individual program. He didn't play a lot after the European Championships. He's an extremely explosive guy. You have to be very careful with his muscles. He has, of course, a fantastic physical foundation to show this explosive and his explosive skills on the pitch. But we couldn't basically create a foundation for him to show his physical top abilities, and we want to do that now. We decided, in other words, going into his operation, that we would take him out of everyday training and build a foundation. Frankfurt on the weekend could be an option. He could play, but then there's a national team break afterwards, but he's not ready to go to the French national team anyway, so we're not going to field him against Frankfurt either. We want to use the break now to give him a good physical foundation to get him back to 100%. Generally speaking, he's doing very well. He trained with the team in parts today and yesterday. He's making very good impression, and like I said, it's not going to take long for him to return to full strength, but on the one hand, it's about the reactions to the surgery, but also we need to train him individually, give him a program to get him back to 100%. The whole squad is nearly available. How happy does that make you? Well, makes me very happy. That's really the prerequisite to show great performances, because it gives you the necessary level of competition in training, but it gives you alternatives for games as well. Whenever there's an injury problem, then that's of course a big problem. But if you have challengers, then you have an option. But of course, a complete squad, no matter if it's a key player or a bench player, is very, very important. Corentin Tolisso is still injured, but his situation is improving as well. He was off the Alta-G now and ran couple laps outside. He's looking good. So unless we have more injuries, then everyone is actually going to be on board at least or latest after the national team break, and then we'll have a great selection, and we're very happy about that. Niklas Süle is in good or very good shape. What role did you take in this process? And you made a little bit of pressure on him, I felt, in summer. You said that he knows he needs to work. How important was that? I don't know. I don't take myself so seriously. I don't think everything I do is that important. I've known Niklas Süle since he was a youth player, and I know about his potential. I know also what he needs to work on, what he needed to work on in the past. So I do have a good connection to him, and I do try to tickle a little bit more performance out of him. It's very simple. When you see a player with great potential, then you try everything to get that potential onto the pitch. And if you stop talking to a player, then usually it's all over, or he's extremely good. If a player is super outstanding anyway, then you don't need to talk to him. But Niklas Süle has potential still. And he's really developing very well at the moment. He's doing a professional job. He's doing everything professional that's around the pitch. But he still has a lot of steps to go. And then I don't think you'll recognize Niklas Süle in 3 or 4 months' time compared to what he played about half a year ago. Don't forget that he was a number 10 player, attacking midfielder at Frankfurt, and then we basically drew him back to the holding midfield number 6. Then he was a centre-back player. For half a year, he thought, what are these two idiots doing with me? But he's still has this number 10 mentality, and then he will have more and more influences more and more influence on our game going forward. It's always a decision of the player, so he needs to decide when he gets up in the morning, do I want to be a better player when I go to bed? And in the last couple of weeks, he made that decision, and he took the right decision. Let me ask one more question about that. How important is it to speak about players publicly and not only internally use conversation? I'm very open with my opinions. I always try to protect my players when I can. That's my conviction, that's my job. But I also try to take you on board, and I do share my opinions without being too critical of players. But Niklas Süle, I said during preseason that he had to work a little bit, and I told him that as well in a personal discussion. It's not as if I try to increase the personal pressure. When you asked me about Marc Roca or Michael Cousins, I gave you my honest opinion. And it's not about being mean or trying to publicly pressurize my players. I want to be honest, and I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on as well. So what I tell you, of course, is what I tell the players as well in more detailed fashion. So I think that's a good compromise for everyone. Robert Pires said to our colleagues of the Kicker that Bayern Munich is one of the favorites to win the Champions League because you have the quality, but you also have this team spirit. In comparison, in particular, to Paris, who have these amazing individual players, but they don't seem to be a real team yet. What did you think about that statement? And then Joshua Kimmich is, of course, a player who you feel a lot. He's going to play for Germany again a lot as well. Are you considering taking him off against Kiev and giving him a break? Well, I'm not considering not fielding him. He will definitely play. I can tell you that. I'll talk to Hansi Flick. Maybe he'll give him a break. But it's important for us that he plays and shows his quality. And Josua can do that. He has amazing endurance, and he doesn't need a break. We took him off the pitch, which was already special, and he wasn't used to that. So, yeah, I think we're on a good track, and then we'll see if we can react maybe in the game against Kiev or not. What was the first question? Robert Pires. Well, yes, he was a great player. I love him as a player. And when a great player, just like you, shares his opinion, then I listen. I read that statement. In the end, I think it's important to look at these kind of statements and confirm them. Now, we've had one Champions League game, and tomorrow we have the second game. Maybe we can confirm that we're one of the favorites. We don't want Robert Pires to say we're favorites and then we can lean back. We need to confirm these statements. If you want to win the Champions League, you have to win more games than everyone else, and we are trying to do that. We watched the first 15 minutes of training, and it seemed as if you were all really enjoying, and you in particular were enjoying playing football. How worried do we have to be that maybe you'll return as a player one day? Again, don't be afraid. You should hope for me to return to the pitch. No, I'm just joking. I think it's important. I know some people are critical of that, and some people think I should concentrate on coaching and not on playing with them. But I do think you have to have a passion for the job, and that you show this passion. I used to be a player. I wanted to be a professional football player for a long time. I tried everything to be a professional football player. And of course, I still love playing football. I'm light years away from playing on the level of my players, but I can keep up with my assistants and I can play keepy-uppies with the players. I think it's important. It doesn't matter if you're in any leadership role, in any kind of company, then it doesn't matter if you're sell products or whatever you're doing. You have to have a passion for the product you're selling or for using that product every once in a while. You have to have a passion and a dedication to your team, to the sport. You have to be emotional. You have to, of course, infatuate your players. You have to excite them. And I'm still thrilled with the sport. I'm passionate for the sport, and that's why you see me enjoying football every once in a while. Last week, you said there was a motto of the week. What was this week's motto? Particularly when you are looking back on a series of 8 wins and on paper you're facing an opponent where you're the clear favorites. Our motto is similar. It's another game for 3 points. We want to have 6 points after 2 games and be and stay table leaders in our Champions League group. Our motto on the plan or the board is a little more tactical. Like I said, Kiev plays with very deep strikers, and so we have to defend with a little more presence. We want to get a little more pressure going forward against Kiev, and that starts with avoiding counterattacks. That's a very, very important tactical aspect of tomorrow's game, and if we can achieve that, then we can live up to our role as favorites. I'd like to go back to Serge Gnabry. You said an interesting sentence about him recently. You said he's a very good instinctual football player who worries a bit too much, who thinks a bit too much, and who plays worse when he thinks too much. Was that a problem he had last season when he had a bit of a slump in his career? Was he too concerned? Was he thinking too much about what's going on? And what did you do to allow him to improve? He's playing better. How did you free his mind, so to speak? I didn't do anything consciously. I didn't talk to him more than any other player, really. Serge and Niklas Süle are similar in the sense that I've known them for a really, really long time. I was with him in Hoffenheim. I have a very good connection to him. I approach him like a normal human being. We have a good rapport. I give him his freedom. The fact that he overthinks certain things is true. He's a player who needs to be free of mind. He doesn't need to worry, and he is allowed to make wrong decisions on the pitch because he is an instinctual player. He can't always be thinking about what do I have to do tactically now, where does the ball have to be played tactically now. He needs to bring this street football mentality onto the pitch. He has great finishing skills, both feet, and when you have a creative player like that, you need to give him freedom. On the other hand, of course, you need to have a tactical structure around him, and he has that. He knows how to be a part of that tactical structure, but he has to trust his body, for instance. He works so hard in all kinds of different areas. He trains very well. He tries everything to be particularly healthy, and he needs to feel trust in his body and feel trust in his game, and then he has an extraordinary quality no matter on what wing, no matter on what position. I treat him like I treat him, like I am as a human being, and if that works, then I'm very happy. You've won 8 competitive games in succession. You've mentioned that the squad is soon complete. But of course, there's another international break coming up. How worried are you about that concerning the strain that the players do experience on these trips as well? Can you talk to the national team coaches? Do you communicate with the coaches of the national teams to plan together with them how to distribute the strain, for instance? The last international team break was not very good. We had a couple of injured players returning, and that's a great shame, and we always try to avoid that. But, of course, I can understand that coaches of national teams don't want to leave their best players out. They have to win every single game as well. Hansi Flick and all the other coaches need to win. They are paid to play good football and to win games, and they're not paid to pay attention to what I want. I think it is important to cooperate. The club coaches and the national team coaches and the medical staffs of either organizations have to communicate. We, as club representatives, of course, don't want to have our players return with an injury, and the same, of course, goes for the national team coaches. They want the players to arrive healthy. It's not easy. There's a crazy schedule. It's not our fault. It's not the national team coaches' fault. There are other organizations that schedule what's happening, and we've mentioned very many times that players have to remain human beings that are healthy. And, of course, when you play too many games, then the quality suffers, because players just can't go to the limit anymore. And I think we all want to see good football, so we have to keep an eye on giving the players necessary breaks in summer and in winter and throughout the season and during games. So I think my medical staff is in a very positive and good exchange with the national team medical staffs, and I hope we can continue to do that. All right, thank you all very much for coming. We're looking forward to tomorrow evening. Goodbye.